What is the crack, everyone? Welcome back to the channel. We're live. We're not live. We're not really live. We're chatting UFC 330. Ian Machado Garry taking on Islam Makhachev for the UFC welterweight title. This coming weekend, 2 days time. It is currently Thursday, 9 o'clock Irish time. Press conference hasn't taken place yet. We've seen Ian and Islam face off throughout the week. We have yet to see them weigh in. Obviously, a humongous fight in the history of Irish MMA, with Ian Machado Garry vying to become only the second Irishman to achieve UFC champion status. Standing in his way, the number one pound for pound fighter in the world, 2-weight UFC world champion Islam Makhachev, who is seeking his own history as he chases. He's already tied with Anderson Silva's 16-fight win streak record in the UFC. He's looking to beat it, to go out on an island all on his own. And yeah, I'm here to chat about the fight. I want to chat about the week. I want to interact with your guys' questions, with your guys' comments. Been trying to put the feelers out this week for the temperature of Irish MMA for this one, because it's weird. I don't know, man. It's weird. It's weird to go into a fight week and there just doesn't seem to be the level of buzz that there really should be for a fight of this magnitude. I mean, I didn't think we'd ever get here again. For an Irishman to be competing for the UFC title, and while it is a massive moment, I just feel like it should be bigger. It should be bigger. Look, there's a lot we can talk about. One, Ian Garry, he deserves this fight. This is a huge moment. Obviously, if we look back at his career, he came up. Ian was the standout amateur of his time. He entered the professional ranks, highly touted. There was a lot of buzz behind him. People talking behind the scenes. You know, I cover Irish MMA all the time, obviously with Quilchin and Ian and the El Triangle. We're looking at a lot at amateur MMA. Quilchin is really kind of, I was about to say forced. He hasn't forced us, but he's opened our eyes to amateur MMA over the last number of years in a way that I didn't really look at before. So I feel like we have a much greater insight when lads are breaking through. But back when Ian was breaking onto the pro circuit, it was like he was this hidden secret that there was whispers about how good this guy could be. We obviously saw him in Cage Warriors coming up back then, SPG Swords, onto Team KF. Obviously a rebrand there and into Cage Warriors, and he just lit up the scene. I mean, God, he was incredible. He really was. I remember the George McManus fight is the standout one in my head. Obviously, he ended up going and fighting Jack Grant for the title and all that. But that George McManus standing TKO, the head kick, he was ferocious. And we saw him rise through the rankings in Cage Warriors. We saw him get the belt, of course, progressing on to the UFC. And I would say his early couple of fights, it was, it wasn't exactly clear that this guy is going to be a UFC title contender. You know, he looked phenomenal in that first win, the KO over, forget his, Jordan Williams, I'm going to say. Is that his name? I can't remember. Jordan Williams, I think it was. But like, he didn't look like, right, this guy's going to be UFC champion. And I think to Ian's credit, he has continued to grow, continued to level up throughout his career. And when you look at the murderer's row that he has competed against, in the likes of Shavkat Rakhmonov, the likes of Carlos Praches, obviously most recently defeating the former champion in Bilal Muhammad, and he's done so stepping in a short notice multiple times. Ian he has always deserved this, and I think that a lot gets lost with Ian around the, what he's saying outside the cage, this obsession around his family life, and really everything that's not to do with fighting. Because I put this out there earlier in the week, like when we consider Ian Garry becoming a champion, he possesses from a fighter perspective all the traits that you would want. A guy who's willing to take on all contenders, a guy he actively wants to test himself against the best in the world, to leave no stone unturned, to leave no doubt in anyone's mind that he is the greatest, and a willingness to do so, to step in on short notice. And from what he's saying, we have to take it at face value for for the time being is when he becomes champion, he wants to take out contender after contender. And I mean, how can you not respect that as an athlete, as a sportsman? That is what you should want from your champion. So, but it's just the other stuff that everyone kind of gets focused on. And what I'm gonna do is in this video, I'll probably bounce in between, kind of giving my opinion, while also, just generally, while also reading out some questions and opinions. And look, when the reason I feel sort of just, it just feels like a weird week. It feels like a weird week where I feel like nobody, not that nobody cares, but like there's just, for so long we were in a position where we had Conor McGregor winning multiple world titles. Obviously, his personality, his notoriety, etc., changed how MMA was viewed in the sport. But like we went through this period where we were trying to clone McGregor, and I know there's this whole narrative around, this is the McGregor versus Khabib too. It's not. It's just not. It's not at all. Like it's not. That's not what this is about. What, to me, from an Irish perspective, what this is about is we spent years afterwards waiting for the next clone of McGregor to rise up to superstardom. It never happened. People were willing this on for a complete phase two, and it just never came. And now it seems like Ian has crept up, and he's done it through continuously winning in the UFC. But it feels like we finally kind of got to this point where we have someone fighting for a UFC title, which it didn't seem like it was likely at all. And now we finally have it, and it's like there's no buzz. Like at least within the MMA bubble, obviously there's an interest there, there's a focus. But I mean, when you look outside of that, and this is not Ian's fault necessarily, like this is a sign of the times for where MMA is in the country. I see one article today on RTE, an intern writing an article, no disrespect to the person, but like, they're not throwing a huge amount of weight behind it. I don't see anything really across Virgin Media, The Independent. There's a brief mention in a coverage guide in the Irish Times, not even a mention, it's just listing the fight. There's just nothing. And it's crazy. And do you know what? I'm gonna go on loads of tangents here. Eddie Hearn and Matchroom Talent Agency, Ian signed with them like a month ago, right after the fight was signed. There was, I saw Virgin Media did a piece with him at the signing, at the announcement when they were announcing the prelims for the Katie Taylor card. But what have we seen since then? This is the biggest moment of his sporting career, and we've seen nothing. Like really, really, in the grand scheme of things, from the Irish mainstream, part of this was supposed to be, Ian getting back with the Irish, getting in front of them. Have Hearn delivered? I don't think so. Have Matchroom delivered? I don't think so. I mean, we're 2 days away from the biggest fight of his life, taking on the best fighter in the world, one of the greatest accomplishments in the sport's history, you could argue. Well, that might be I might be throwing a bit there, but as far as the test ahead of him, Islam Makhachev could go down as the greatest UFC fighter of all time. Now, obviously, if Ian beats him, that'll take a hit. But you're talking about a 2-weight world champion, a guy who's literally he's tied for the record right now of the most UFC win streak, or highest UFC win streak in the promotion's history. And Ian's going in here and trying to defeat him for the first time in a decade. And there's just no buzz. And look, I don't know, man. It's sad. It's sad. It's sad that there isn't. And part of this, look, I'm sure we'll get into, like, I might jump into the questions, because otherwise I'm just going to bounce between topics because I'm all over the gaff. But it's sad that we are in a position where we finally have the next Irishman up to rise to the top, to rise to the challenge from a sporting perspective. Like, we are a small country. We're finally here. Like, and it's sad that there isn't more of a groundswell behind this potential achievement. Obviously, he needs to go in and do the job, and it's a tough task, but to me, it's sad. Look, let's get into some questions so we can put a bit of structure around me just waffling. All right, Pat Dorgan asks two questions, Andy. One, could Ian be so overlooked here and underestimated? Islam literally said it's not his biggest challenge, all based on his persona and not his fighting skills, that he manages a Strickland-like performance. I think Ian is overlooked. There's so much focus on on everything outside of the cage for Ian, that I do think he's overlooked. Now, I think what I've noticed, right, is when I put out a tweet kind of gauging people's excitement for him, some people are very much able to put the talking and the fighting in two separate buckets. Um, and I think that, as far as your question around, will he manage a Strickland performance based on that? I don't think it'll be because of that. Like, I don't think Islam Makhachev will overlook him whatsoever. Ian has a very, like, he's a live dog here. He's got a chance to win. Now, he's got to be perfect, but he definitely has a chance to win. Um, I don't think I think he is overlooked and underestimated, and I think part of that is because there's so much of a distraction around the outside the cage persona, personality, whatever you want to call it, um, and this just hyper obsession on his family life from people and his viewpoints of the world and all this stuff, that I do think there is a massive distraction from his actual fighting capabilities, but I don't think that's necessarily going to be the reason why we would see a Strickland like performance from him. I think it's just you've got two absolutely incredible fighters going head to head, and Ian has a small chance, is how I would classify it, but he does have a chance of winning this fight. Second question from Pat Dorgan. Why is Ian so unpopular home and abroad? This doesn't feel like a big fight. No real hype. When Ronda was wrecking girls, there was still hype despite knowing she was going to steamroll most of her opponents. No one's hyped for this fight. Not even Islam. Why? Look, it's a loaded question, Pat. When I put out that tweet looking for people's excitement, it's just a fact that there is a disconnect between the fan base and Ian. And I know he was kind of talking about, how all of the interactions with fans in person are great. And I've witnessed that myself with Ian. And I think that there absolutely are people who are supporters of Ian out there. I think the people he meets along the way. I also think, let's be honest, people are quite two-faced. And also you're not really going to be talking shit to or unless you're really fucking stupid, you're not going to be talking shit to an MMA fighter to their face. That's a very bad idea. So I think that, like, a lot of the stuff that you see online, some of it is definitely from a like just cesspool, but there is legitimate, like, I can only speak to what I experience as I cover the sport and as I talk to people. There's a disconnect between Ian and the fans, and partly that's his own doing. Partly that's this, like, and it's not just all for one reason. It's some people just love to focus in on the family stuff, and for whatever reason, like to clown on him or whatever. I don't really like to get into that stuff, to be honest. Like, if he's happy, if he's off doing his own thing, good for him, which he appears to be. Some people don't like is the way he sees the world. Obviously, the more recent interview, like the PETA stuff, like the MMA fan base doesn't like this type of stuff. They just don't. So he kind of he flies in the face of what they want to see from their macho, traditional fighter. Some don't like how he's carried himself as far as the Neil Magny stuff. Some don't like, the Jeff Neal putting the mugshot. I think some people don't like the way he carries himself. He's a very cocky guy. He's a very Ian Machado Garry he's his own biggest fan, but that has worked to his benefit in fighting. You kind of have to be that way. He's got himself to a mindset where he believes he is the greatest in the world. He's got the best fight IQ. He's the best. He's the fastest. He's the strongest. He's the best striker. He's the best at everything. And when you're an elite level athlete, like, that helps. Now, like, that's the positive side of it. The downside of it is people don't like to hear that a lot of the time. They just don't want to hear, like, someone talking about how great they are all the time, and that's just the double-edged sword that you kind of have to deal with. So I think a lot of people, or some people anyway, don't like that. That's what's been kind of vocalized to me. And then also, some Irish people just feel a certain way about any sort of disconnect with Ireland. So when even though I feel like Ian, from my perspective, I feel like Ian has, especially lately, tried to form that connection with the Irish fan base. He does talk, like, I know people keep on referencing how he speaks so lovingly of Brazil. Obviously, family now are Brazilian ties, training there, in Brazil. Very, very deep connection at this point with the country, and I can understand why it means a lot to him. As I've lived abroad myself before, I get it. Um, but some people just, they feel like I don't know, that he doesn't promote his Irishness enough. I think Ian plays, or I don't know if playing a persona is right, but I don't feel like we often see the authentic Ian Garry when he's in the media. I think that Ian, having grown up watching a McGregor, having grown up knowing and kind of learning how to present a personality or persona to the fan base, I feel like I feel like he feels he has to be on and delivering like a performance, or for maybe performance is wrong, but it's like he's delivering something, a product to the audience, and I feel like we don't get to see just the authentic Ian a lot of the time. I think we see glimmers of that. I thought, he did an interview with Full Send this week. There's been other interviews where I feel like we catch a glimpse of him and his authentic self, and that is a likable guy. Um, but I think he feels like he needs to be delivering these one liners, these big statements, these I don't know, this fighting personality, um, and I think some people just don't seem, or they don't feel like that's quite his authentic self, and I think that's hard to buy into. Then that's just the way some people feel. So I think there's a combination of things as to why the fan base has not has not been drawn to him sometimes. I could really do with a glass of water, and I don't have one. This is a disaster. We'll keep going. Next question. Will his leftish persona actually benefit him in the long run, as it acts as a counter to the crowded right-wing macho personas in the UFC, Hogan, Strickland, etc.? Possibly. I mean, there's not that many people who are MMA, the UFC fan base, very much right-wing. That is, like, I think that's pretty undeniable at this point. So it'll make Ian stand out, certainly. Whether I don't think it'll necessarily win a lot of the fan base over. Could it benefit him? Possibly. It could benefit him, perhaps. To talk about the Irish mainstream media, if you're looking to get kind of more closer ties there, possibly. Could make you more palatable to that type of media, perhaps. Jake Davis, I'm sure many people will ask the question, but will Ian be appreciated by the general Irish MMA fan base with a win? Look, I think that, it goes on to say, for whatever reason, the stark majority have taken a dislike to him. Does that begin to change with a win? Yeah, look, I'm getting a lot of comments like this, a lot of questions like this. Will he be appreciated? I think Ian's fighting ability is appreciated by the Irish fan base. I genuinely do. A lot of the comments I got on Twitter in response to my tweet kind of asking, what's the temperature heading into the fight, and do people give him a chance? It was a mixed bag. Some people were really supportive of Ian, and it should be said that there is a because we tend to focus on this disconnect, but like, a lot of people still are fans of Ian, especially when you consider the representation that Conor McGregor has had for the sport of MMA. Obviously, on the rise, it was amazing, but it hasn't been great. To very much understate it in the last number of years. So Ian is at this point in their respective careers, to many, he's a much better representation of Ireland at this point. So I think he still does have a lot of people who are fans and want to see him succeed, and want to see him win, and believe in him, etc. But even those who don't like him and who aren't won over by his personality or his persona, I think that they are able to set that aside, and I see it a lot. Like, people are giving him a great chance. They believe he has a great chance, but also they're they recognize the task ahead of them, and I suppose will he be appreciated? Yeah, I think. Will people change their mind about whether they are a supporter of him? I don't know. Perhaps not. Perhaps some will, but I think it's if you cannot respect Ian Garry going out there and beating Islam Makhachev, then you don't know MMA. You don't appreciate the sport, and you can't separate your feelings for the individual or for whatever reason that you may not be the biggest fan from the actual capabilities of going in there and getting the win, because it'll be phenomenal. It'll be right up there. You can. I've said this before. You can make an argument if he goes in from a pure sport perspective and he beats Islam Makhachev. You can argue that is the greatest win in Irish MMA history, as far as pure sport. I think that's right up there. At least having the conversation with the Jose Aldo win. Now, obviously, you can go into how he does it, etc. But 2-weight world champion, literally going to make history himself if he gets a win, to have the longest win streak in the promotion's history, and he hasn't been beaten in 10 years. How do I pronounce this? There's no name here, so I'm going to use your YouTube name. Oreo Any Media says, where's it gone? My phone is messing up here. What does he say? He says, biggest fight in terms of magnitude in a while. Islam trying to become a GOAT, an all-time leading win streak, and Ian Garry going for a world championship and trying to become the face of MMA for Ireland. Yep, you're absolutely correct, and he is. It's huge. It's massive. Absolutely massive fight. Everything you've said there underlines why it's so big from a sport perspective, and that's why I do feel it's a damn shame that not more has been made of this in Irish circles. What else we got? Let's check over here. Let's check the old laptop. We haven't even talked about the fight, really, have we? KOB 100. Islam. I don't know if I should read these names out because they weren't given publicly. But anyway, sorry about that. Islam should retire if he beats Ian. Double champ, breaks Silva's record and beats number one. I disagree completely. I feel like Khabib left the sport, and I understand what it should be said. You're in a very violent sport, grave dangers, circumstances, whatever. Get out while you're on top. There's a massive argument to be made for that. But I will say, I feel like Khabib left a lot of legacy on the table, or at least he could have gone on. That'll always be the what if, right? How far could Khabib have gone? Would he have gone up to 170? Would he have continued to win? Would he have broken these streaks and established himself as one of the greatest? Well, yeah, I think he already is one of the greatest, but because he stopped when he did, it's harder to put him up there as the GOAT. Whereas I feel like Islam Makhachev has a real opportunity here to separate himself from anyone in the sport. But to do that, you got to keep winning. And I think he's gone up. He's won that 170-pound title. And yes, he's fighting the top contender in Ian Machado Garry next. But there's also the Carlos Pracheses of the world. There's the Michael Moraleses. There's more people to take out at that higher weight class. So I'd be interested to see him continue on. Would be my my opinion there. Some predictions here. Islam first round submission. Ian by this one comes from a former teammate of Ian Garry, from Team KF. I won't say who. Ian by decision or 4th or 5th round TKO. And another one. Again, I won't read the names out just in case they don't want me to. But is there a world where Ian wins by sub? No, I don't think there is. If we get into the fight, I think this is kind of what Ian has said in the media this week. You've got a very high level striker, an incredibly high level grappler. Now, his grappling is very much underrated. Islam, his striking is very much underrated. Look at what he did to Alexander Volkanovski. I think that Islam likes to strike. I think we will see them strike at the beginning of the fight, and then at a certain point he will look for that takedown. And no, Ian's not going to win by submission. If Ian wins, it'll either be a knockout or decision, in my opinion. I think it's more likely it'll be a decision. Ian is at his best when he's moving, when he's sticking the jab, when he's using those knees up the middle, when he's using his kicks. when he's racking up points is the wrong way to put it, but like when he's on the feet and he's flowing and he's fighting on the outside, which I think he's going to need to do here against Makhachev. I think he has the footwork to do here. I think he has the elusivity to do it. Elusivity, is that a word? I think he has the fight IQ to do it. But also, Islam is so damn complete. And I would agree with the prediction, or if Ian is to win by decision or fifth round TKO, yeah, I could see that. But I could also see that other prediction of Islam first round submission because he's just so damn good. Look at you go back to it now. Ian is a far superior fighter in my opinion, and a very much different fighter than Renato Moicano. But when you go back and look at that fight, even Islam was playing around on the feet. Moicano started to strike a bit, and just like that, he was able to switch the fight up, take him down, sub. Now I don't think he's going to do that. I don't think he's going to get a first round submission against Ian. I think we're talking, if he gets a sub, I think Ian will last at least till the third. But in my heart of hearts, I think this is going to a decision. I think it's very hard to pick against Islam Makhachev, but really this is about, can Ian needs to make this a boring fight, is how I see it. Ian needs to stick a move. He needs to point fight. He needs to keep getting his jab in Islam's face. And the danger that I do see is when Ian's throwing those kicks, can Islam catch him? Can he get him down? And can he keep him down? But look, I think it's an absolutely phenomenal fight. If Ian wins this, it is one of the greatest achievements in Irish MMA history. God, it'll be incredible if he did it. And as I said, one of the biggest fights in Irish history in MMA. Can Ian shock the world? Can he go out there and end the win streak? Can he go out there, become just the second Irishman in UFC history to win gold? I'm very, very excited to see how it plays out. I think from a pure sport perspective, how can you not love this fight? But I guess we'll find out. Can he do it? And what the reaction will be, and what the era of Ian Garry UFC champion will look like. Those are my thoughts. Apologies for the ramble. Quite a ramble today. But yeah, let me know what you think and let me know your predictions in the comments, and I will see you in the next video. Thanks for watching the video. Really appreciate it. Hit that subscribe button to make sure you don't miss out on any new videos on the channel. If you like that one, consider giving a like, leaving a comment. It goes a long way to help me grow the channel. And if you like videos like this, if you like the interviews that I'm doing, follow along. We'll have plenty more content coming to the channel soon. And thanks for watching.